Ancient Greece Arts by Dakota Pigo. Three main categories are Archaic period, Classical period, and Hellenistic period. Archaic period ranged from 750 BC to 500 BC. The age is defined through the development of art at this time, especially through the style of pottery and sculpture, showing the specific characteristics that would later be developed into the more naturalistic style of the Classical period. Archaic period. Four main topics that I'm going to hit on is pottery, architecture, sculpture, and painting. In the Archaic period, there were vast changes in Greek language, society, arts, architecture, and politics. These changes occurred due to the increased population of Greece and its increasing amount of trade, which in turn led to colonization and new age of intellectual ideas, the most important of which, at least to the modern West world, was democracy. This would then fuel, in a rather circular way, more cultural changes. The technique of inscribing silhouetted figures with enlivening detail, which we now call the black figure method, was roughly from 620 to 480 BC. Pottery comprises a large part of the archaeological record of ancient Greece because of its durability. Base painting were not used by most people, but were significantly cheap and very accessible to a wide range of the population. In the photo here, you can see Achilles in Sicilia, painted by Exchius in 540 BC. The typical rectangular building was surrounded by a line of columns on all four sides. Roofs were constructed with timber beams overlaid with terracotta tiles. Stone was used for Greek public buildings, especially temples, during the 5th and 6th century. Greek architecture relied on simply post and Archaic period, 750 to 500 BC. The sculptures that really stood out the most was the Crassus Corchreus. It is a statue of an Athenian soldier that functioned as a grave marker. It is also thought to represent the ideal image of the person rather than an actual portrayal of what Crassus looked like. It also introduced the archaic smile. The female counterpart to Corius was Cor. The Cor was named after her attire. The Plebeius is a heavily woven dress which is belted at the waist. The Archaic period. Since vases and sculptures were painted, the growth of pottery and sculptures during the 7th century led automatically to more work for Greek painters. Unfortunately, due to erosion, vandalism, and destruction, few original Greek paintings have survived from this period. All that remains are a few painted slabs, terracotta, some wooden panels, and murals. The Classical period. In the Classical period, I'm going to cover pottery, architecture, sculpting, and painting. In the 5th century, Greek artists began consistently to attempt to render human and animal form realistically. This entailed careful observation of the model as well as understanding the mechanics of anatomy, how a body adjusts to a pose which is not stiffly frontal but with the weight shifted to one side of the body, and how a body behaves in violent motion. The successors to the archaic Crow, mainly athlete figures, are regularly shown at ease, one leg relaxed with a complementary shift in the shoulders, and the whole emphasized by contrast of rigid and relaxed in limbs. During the Classical period, pottery, especially ceramic art and vases, were painted experienced a progression decline. We are not exactly sure why, judging by the lack of innovation and increasing sentimental of the designs, it appears to have worn itself out. The final creative development was the white grounded technique, which had been introduced around 500 BC. Unlike the black figure and red figure styles, which relied on clay slips to create pictures, the white grounded technique employed paint and gilding on a white clay background. During the classical period, we had the Iconic and Doric order. Doric and Iconic came to define a timeless, harmonious, universal standard of architectural beauty. Doric was more formal, while Iconic was somewhat more relaxed and decorative. The classical period of sculptures introduces the stance of contrapposio, also known as the counterpose. The statue is made of marble and is considerably smaller than real life size. At 1.1 meters tall, 3 foot 10 inches, the Cretan boy. During the classical period, painting reveals a grasp of linear perspective and naturalist representation, which would remain unsurpassed until the Italian High Renaissance. Besides vast paintings, all types of painting flourished during the classical period. Panel painting was the highest form, done in encaustic and tempera. Subjects included figurative scenes, portraits, and still lifes, and expeditions. Painting in the classical period was the high point of ancient Greek, with artists like the talented and influential Apelles shown below painting the Alexander the Great. The Hellenistic period. Architecture, sculpture, and painting will be covered. The period of Hellenistic art opened with the death of Alexander the Great and the incorporation of Persian Empire into the Greek world. Architecture during this time focused on theatrical and drama. The period also saw the development of Corinthian order, as shown on the slide. Hellenistic sculptures continued towards naturalism, prompting sculptures of animals as well as ordinary people of all ages became acceptable subjects for sculptures, which was frequently commissioned by wealthy individuals or families to decorate their homes and gardens. One of the most popular is the Fairness Bull. Painting during this time, a rise in the demand for the Hellenistic Greek sculptures also increased the rise in demand for Hellenistic Greek painting. The great contribution of the Hellenistic painters was in portrait art, notably the Fathom mummy portraits, as depicted to your left.